So now we're live, and this is Chris Bennett with AC and I, Adapt, Create, and Innovate. And we're excited to have Gabrielle Martinez with us to talk about her girl tribe, and she'll give you some more details. Gabby, before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to all the healthcare workers, first responders, and the other public servants and private sector servants who are doing their thing to help us so that we can stay in shelter in place. Express appreciation to them. And rather than
Definitely, definitely.
excuse me. So rather than introduce you, I'm actually going to hand it over to you to introduce yourself because you're such a dynamic personality. I cannot do it justice.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Gabrielle Martinez. I am the executive director and founder of the Black Girl Tribe, www.blackgirltribe.com. We are a nonprofit, national-based nonprofit dedicated to the betterment of Black girls. We do this by creating space, change, and access for the betterment of Black girls and for Black girls to have a voice. So what does that mean? That means that we do mentorship. That means that we do college-bound programs. That means that we do sex ed. That means that we do holistic mental health programming, that everything is coming from a completely conscious effort to not be traumatic or re-traumatizing to the youth that we serve. And everything is Black girl centered, so it's magical.
So with that awesome introduction, the next standard question we have on ACI is a soundbite. So typically it's give us a soundbite about you as a person and then about what you do. So how would you like to compliment what you just said as an introduction?
Okay, sure. So who I am as a person, I am a advocator, I am a mentor, I'm an edutainer, as I like to say, because I like to educate and entertain at the same time. And I am literally still a Black girl just trying to be magical in the world that is always trying to snuff me out.
That is a perpetual pursuit, as we can see with the crazy things that are happening in the world today.
Exactly.
And Gabby, I know it's been a minute since we were so fortunate to have you participate in Global Entrepreneurship Week with us in DC. So thank you for that again.
Fine.
Give us a little bit more, if you would, about the purpose for your organization, because I found it to be exemplary. I wanted to know if you wanted to expand on that a bit.
I'm sure. So the purpose of our organization is very simple. It's the betterment of Black girls, where a lot of times people think that that is a polarizing mission. It's really not, because Black women and Black girls affect every system, every change, every operation going on in the world globally. We send people to the moon, we feed you, we nurture you, we bring you into the world. So essentially, everyone needs to be concerned about the state of Black girls, specifically with statistics being the way that they are. Black women and girls are always at the bottom of every statistic, while also leading the change in the vanguard of the revolution as well. You have, more Black women are in college and the problems of being working from home.
Right.
Black women are in college and are getting educated and are having degrees and holding degrees than any other demographic in the world, right? But we're also disproportionately suffering from heart disease, from HIV contraction, and from unattended teen pregnancy. So there are a lot of other issues and barriers in the way of Black girlhood and surviving Black girlhood. So essentially what Tribe is here to do is to be that resource and to implement whatever the girls need to happen to make it work for them. So our acronym is Teach, Reach, Inspire, Build, and Empower, because being effective to our youth is not a monolithic thing. It's not something that we can just say, this is what's going to help every youth and every Black girl. So some of them might need the teach aspect. Some of them might need the empower aspect. Some of them might just need somebody to believe in them, and there's the be, right? So that is what we're doing. And my staff is pretty unique in the sense that we are 100% women, 100% women of color. And you notice I did not say Black, because we are women of color. There are a lot of different other people behind the scenes working on behalf of Black girls. So again, like I said, it's not a polarizing mission whatsoever. Anybody can come and be a part of it. We are the Black Girl Tribe, but we welcome everybody into our village.
Well, thank you for that. And I just want to echo something that you said, which struck a chord with me about the disadvantages and the challenges to just surviving as a woman of color. I know that as the father of three young adults, that my partner, my spouse, my then spouse, had the challenge of being at a higher risk during pregnancy as a Black female. So I'm aware of those things and sensitive to them and appreciative of the support that you're giving the entire community. So let's step back for a second. Did this idea just pop out of your head like in Greek mythology, Athena pops out of Zeus's head? Or what was the outrageously creative background?
Racism.
I don't know about creativity, but that's outrageous. That's true.
I mean, honestly, being very honest, racism. I've worked for some of the top national nonprofits in the country, and globally, I'll say there have been leaders globally, and in every one of them, I will say, I have felt marginalized, othered, and tokenized, right? And so essentially, while you have these very well-meaning people out here doing this very well-meaning work, a lot of it is re-traumatizing, and even on a lot of times on parts of the staff that is having to do said work or be the of color representation for the mission of that organization. So with Tribe, I was just kind of tired of it, and I was tired of being apologetic and having to be divisive. I mean, not divisive, being strategic in aligning my mission or my cause with a lot of other people's causes, when in reality, my cause is enough to be a cause on its own. And so that's really what it was. I had to really empower myself to be able to even step out and say that Tribe was necessary, because Black girls and women are always so conditioned to put ourselves second, right? To put ourselves behind everybody else because we are Mother Nature, we're the world's nurturers. But essentially, like, we're dying. We're dying and no one cares that we're dying, but you're still asking us for stuff. So it's really confusing, right? Because it's like, okay, you want us to save the world, but you don't want to resource us. You don't want to equip us. You want to hold us down at the same time while asking us to push you up. So again, you know, it just really came out of the necessity, the need to have a voice for Black girls, like specifically right now in the times, like, yes, you have this country is literally burning around us, right? I'm in the nation's capital. I'm in DC. I can look out the window and see the Capitol, right? And so essentially, the nation is burning around me, and it's burning for a very worthy cause, and I'm not condemning that, but also it could have been burning. Could have started burning about, you know, a couple of weeks ago when we learned about Breonna Taylor. It could have burned when we learned about Sandra Bland. You know what I'm saying? These are not new issues. Police brutality is not new issues. Police brutality amongst Black women is not a new issue at all either. We are subjected, maybe not so much to death, but sexual assault. We're subjected to mistreatment, to a lot of different things, right? And so you even have a theme of police coming back to reassault the women, the Black women, Black and brown women that they, you know, encounter in their policing, right? So you have these issues, but essentially it took for it to be a man, right? For the country to wake up and massage noir is a thing. So again, that's why we are the Black Girl Tribe, not necessarily the Black People Tribe. Because Black people, we have organizations. We have the NAACP. We even have national campaigns on behalf of, you know, President Barack Obama with My Brother's Keeper. But Barack Obama has 2 daughters.
Right.
And
a powerful spouse. Yes.
And a very powerful spouse, right? And those 3 people do not just organically come out of the world. They are fighting a lot of adversity. And for them to exist, there needs to be programs, there needs to be, you know, access points, as what we like to call them at Tribe, you know, for the girls to be able to realize they can even get to that point. You know what I'm saying? So again, you know, it's just funny that like our narrative is even sometimes swept under the rug by our own people. And you see that. But when you see, you know, different efforts come out around social media, even, you know, women ourselves, Black women, we're sometimes conditioned to put other Black women separately than, you know, second than other people in the fight. So what we're doing here at Tribe is really just like a reconditioning. We keep saying we're trying to change the narrative. We're trying to change the narrative about Black women to Black women and also to the world, you know, like Black women, we're always given these tropes about ourselves that we don't stick together, that we don't like each other, that we don't, you know, there's always this competition. You have colorism, you have texturism, you have all these different things that get in the way, right, of us being unified. And essentially, like, that is really what we're trying to do. So by using the language, being very, like I said, very conscious about our words, because words mean things. Like we use the word tribe specifically because a tribe is a group of people that come together by an idea, a blood, a kinship, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? It could be anything that binds you. And that's really what we need to see back into the, not just the Black community, but the Black girl and woman community, transgenerationally as well.
Okay. And what you said struck home. My partner, Jan, is a fan of Michelle Obama. In fact, I describe her as Michelle's sister from another mother. And, and Michelle was, we were watching, I think, a series of videos on her I think it was Netflix. And she was describing how she adapted to moving to the White House.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, she was a bit salty with President Obama because he was going to the gym. And she was thinking, like, how you find the time to go to the gym? And she said, but then it occurred to her, he was prioritizing that because he needed to be at the top of his game to handle the other things. So she said she prioritized herself to find a way to get to the gym. So I hear you.
And she has those iconic arms, right? And see, even then, we can talk about it. Like Michelle Obama being as fit as she was looked at as a negative thing, right? Like, oh, she's so manly. Oh, what is she trying to do? Oh, what is this image? What? Like, honestly, this is what we're here to be. Tribe is here to be the voice to be like, nah. You know what I mean? Because Black women don't have that voice. When Black women are attacked in the media, you rarely see Black people come to their defense. And I'm not saying like, I'm saying everybody. You don't see the media combating the same images, right? Mm-hmm. So what we're trying to do is to say, look, you're not going to say whatever you want to say about us. We are going to be a voice, you know, and I will say, like, speaking to our vitality during this time, during COVID, our social media has been so important to us, and our social media has been important to us from the beginning. Our voice, our imprint, like really paying attention to like the fact that means something to this generation, the generation that we're trying to affect. Social media does. So like where people don't see the power in that, now they do, because they see how powerful it is to activate your youth. And so when people are attacking people on social media, when people are saying negative things about our first lady, our youth see that. Right? And when they don't see people defending them, they think, oh, well, that's what the world is going to do to me. We're always coming for people's necks when they're coming for ours. Like, and that's the thing. People are really like nervous about that because they're like, oh, they seem very militant. I have to be, because the world is militant against Black women and girls. I have to be just as unapologetic about my love for myself and the people that look like me, the same way you are just as unapologetic about that hate. And so again, like, people don't like when you return, you know, they see it as not cocky or like having I always get the what ifs, right? Like, oh, you're always worried about Black girls and Black women. What about Black men? What about Black men? Name me one organization, one movement that was started by Black men on behalf of Black women and girls solely. Never been a thing. But I can tell you a few. Black Lives Matter was started by Black women for Black men. You know, in reaction to the death of Black men being in police murders. So like, and this has been a situation from the beginning of time. When it took those bus boycotts, it was the women. It was the women who were walking, right? It was the women who were going into these spaces and really like pushing the limits on what people would do. Because if you exact brutality on these women, but they have to be the martyrs to go out and do it, right? So again, like, we don't get our due credit. And so that's really what Tribe is here to say. Like, we deserve our credit. And when you give us our credit, and when you give us our support, and when you give us our resources, we can be those superheroes that the world needs, that we already are. You know what I'm saying? So imagine how much more magic we could accomplish in this world if we were resourced properly, if we did not have to make something out of nothing all the time.
I actually have a sense of that imagination, and I'm going to pause and welcome our senior intern, Kelsey Jacobs. She's engaging in consuming your informative content.
Hey, Kelsey.
But I will say I can imagine, and that's one of the reasons that we have our mission at TIL to democratize intellectual property for underserved populations. One of them includes women. So we're very sensitive to that.
And we appreciate being your client, honestly, because it's like, that's the thing. It's an integral part. if you know the story of the term black girl magic, it was coined by a teacher. Her name was Kashawn Thompson. She is from DC, Southeast, right?
Okay.
She's a pre-K teacher. She coined this phrase, and that phrase was stolen by so many brands and used to make millions, billions of dollars. Like, think about all the black girl magic branding and things that you've seen. You've seen Procter and Gamble, you've seen BT, you've seen all these people, and no one has credited this woman for her intellectual property. And then someone else went and got it copyrighted before she did. And then it's just been a battle. But all that money has already been made, right? So essentially, it's been integral. It's been I would say it's been a game changer for us as a Black woman led and run organization to have intellectual property council from the beginning. Like, you've been with us since before we even got our 501c3 letter, right? Like, to have you all on our team and to say, like, okay, do this, do that, have this, have that, it has set us apart waves, you know what I mean, than other organizations that have probably started out and got crushed by people taking their intellectual property. I have no problem going after people for taking my words now for anything, because I know I'm empowered by you, right? That has told me, like, what is in my scope of things that I can flex on people, right? And so essentially that comes with empowerment, that comes with ingenuity, that comes with meeting a need. Like, you had to create your organization so that my organization, you know what I mean, can have a jumping off point, can have that base, can have that support. And that's really like what we're trying to do with Tribe too. We're trying to build this network so that when our girls get older or when they grow up or whoever, like, we have this resource of empowered women and girls who are only going to grow up and become better, right? They're only going to get better. Their resource to us, their capacity is only going to get greater. So why not make the investment now? So then later on, when it turns around, like, you call me and you say you need me on a panel, I'm here, right? And so that's that same, like, sense of, like, loyalty amongst organizations within the fight, within the mission, because like us having this conversation, somebody hears it and then they get the balls, you know, for lack of a better word, because everybody got balls, the balls enough to start their org, knowing that supports are out there for the questions that they can't answer themselves.
Well, thank you for that. And I'm actually going to pivot back to talking about you and Black Girl Tribe. So there's got to be a backstory behind your personal background that's driving some of this, or at least is fueling and directing it. Give us a little bit more about who are you?
This is weird. Okay, so I'm literally like, the house that I'm in right now is the house that I was born in. I'm a native Washingtonian, born in Sibley Hospital in '88. Okay. I grew up partially here and in Maryland, but I come from a lot of different intersections. I'm the first person in my family born in this country. My father is from Venezuela. And so being of slavery of, being a descendant of enslaved people, being a descendant of enslaved people that are then, you know, now called immigrants into this country, you know, I have a different kind of respect for Black people and the Black experience in the diaspora than I think, and I check my privilege in that because I've been able to experience the diaspora. I've traveled to the Caribbean when I was 7 years old. I've gone different places, and it's definitely affected and changed my worldview. And so what personally drives me is to spread that privilege. And I don't even, you know, there would be some people that would say, I'm not privileged enough to have any to spread. But essentially, like, my experiences have like morphed and changed into something that has been like a vehicle for other people to have even greater experiences. So that's like my best part. I think that, like, the thing that drives me the most is legacy. And I've always been in love with history. I've always been in love with, you know, historical figures and their words and the things that you chose to do. Because if you look at your span of your life on the timeline of like history, like, you're here for a flash, right? So essentially, like, I have to look back at like past Black girl magicians. I got to think about Harriet Tubman, you know what I'm saying? I got ancestors on my back. My ancestor is Matthew Henson. Like, literally, my ancestor is Josiah Henson, who Uncle Tom's Cabin was written about, right? So, like, I have a very, very, and this is like my direct lineage, I have a very, very rich legacy and a history that I have to compete with. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not just like, oh, I get to read about them and be proud. Like, I gotta one up them, because if they did that, what am I gonna do? You know what I'm saying? And so that's essentially what drives me. And I don't say that's for anybody to feel pressure and to feel like anything they do is less than, because I have my imposter syndrome days where like I could, you know, have a revolution and I can literally, you know, with the snap of my finger, get a bunch of people in one spot. And then some days I feel like nobody's checking my text messages. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's going on? So I think like when we talk about drive, we have to talk about just the bottom baseline, because drive changes all the time, right? Like, what's my common theme? My common theme is always legacy. My drive changes. Like, for me to start Tribe literally was the girls that I work with already saying that they wanted a space that was for them, and working within the organization that I was in, not being able to create that, right? Creating that safe space. Because even though we have different organizations out here that do really good work, and it's vital, and I'm not just downplaying it. Sometimes it's not the most well thought out programs or programming, the most well thought out marketing or wording, you know what I'm saying? And so it does a lot of re-traumatizing to people, even though it's trying to help. And so even when thinking about Tribe's legacy, I never want information to come for us, an action, a program to come for us that we won't be proud of in 50 years. You know what I'm saying? Or that we won't be proud of in 100 years. I don't ever want there to be a part where, like, I feel like in every other organization that I work for, there's been like some dark, gloomy past that I have been running from. Not like for me personally, but in that organization, like their history, that like me as a person of color, I have to kind of be embarrassed of being a part of them for. And I just really wanted to be able to do the work without any shame or taint, you know, in the legacy, if that makes any sense. And that meant creating a new one, you know, because a lot of time, and I'm excited. Like, I literally sit back and I think, I can't wait till I'm an 80-year-old coming back to a Tribe gala that I had no idea, you know, was planning. And they are like, oh, this is what happened. And I don't know any of the girls because it's gotten so big, you know what I mean? That's the kind of stuff that excites me, where I feel like some people, when they think about their dreams, they think about them with like a completion, like into completion, and they don't think about things growing beyond them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love to think about my legacy. I love to think about like what's going to happen after, you know, like I look at which one of my mentees now do I think is going to be, you know, the next ED, you know, like which one do I think can, you know, is going to start her own org and do something, you know, even more specific. So those kind of things drive me. Those kind of things, like that's my backstory. Nothing. And I won't even give one instance of racism or like personal issue, like the glory in the story, if that makes any sense. I would say that it's a compilation of well-meaning white women telling me how to be a woman. It's a compilation of Black men telling me how to be Black. So Tribe is us carving out their own little corner to just go be us.
Right. We got to represent. And so my next question was to ask you, what's the source of your innovation inspiration? But I got to preface it with, based on what you described, it could be DNA. You know,
it could be DNA. I would be remiss if I did not say that. Like, I know, and again, that's a privilege to know who and which you come from. Like, my family, I don't know what it is about the slave people in Maryland, but they were just not with it, right? Like, when I look at, I come from runner stock. Like, that's just like literally something I'm super proud to say. And again, it's a privilege to know that. You know, when people know about the Uncle Tom story, right, they think about it in like this like completely warped way. But my uncle wrote his own book. You know, Harriet Beecher, he ran away. He did not stay there. You know what I'm saying? He ran away. And he went back and got his family, right? And then he went to Canada and started Dresden, Canada, a free town for Black people that still celebrates him to this day. But this is if anything I learned from my legacy, right? The foreshadowing of this. There are a lot of people who don't know anything about my uncle. They don't know the real story. They still think that man's name is Tom, right? So how did that happen? That happened from not being in control of your own narrative. And that happened from working with well-meaning people and not necessarily knowing their real purpose behind what they were doing.
Mhm.
You know, we look at Harriet Beecher Stowe as an abolitionist, some would say. I look at her so as a liar. I hate to say it like that,
Mhm.
because she came and she interviewed my uncle, and she got pieces of his story, and then she manipulated it to make the narrative look like what she needed it to look like, right? And so he wrote another story called a Truth Stranger Than Fiction, which was his own version. I mean, not his truth, right? A truth stranger than fiction, his version of the story. And it's like a play on words. So the shade is in my blood. Like, you know what I mean? Like the shadiness is in my blood. The petty runs deep, right? A truth stranger than fiction. My uncle was the first Black person in the world and in history to present at the World Fair, right? He met Queen Victoria. You went from being a slave to meeting the Queen of England, right? But they don't want to tell you that part. And so that is what inspires me to know that part. And all the people that I mentioned in my family, if you listen to that, if you look at their stories, they were all thrown off. Their legacies were thrown off, right?
Mhm.
Or misappropriated to white people. Because like Uncle Tom's Cabin is famous, but Uncle Tom isn't the famous person, is Harriet Beecher Stowe. Nobody's talking about, you know, the actual Black person of the story, right?
Mhm.
Then you have Matthew Henson. My uncle ran from slavery, went to Baltimore, freed himself, joined the military, a country that don't even love you and you still loyal to them. Like, again, right? Then you travel and you go to the North Pole, and your white counterpart cannot make it all the way.
Right.
But you are still so dedicated to your country and your mission that you carry the flag and you plan on the North Pole. And for years, decades, if that history is misattributed to you, to somebody else, that is in something that I've always known. Being in DC, you get a lot of this, but past is prologue. You know what I'm saying? And so I have to, like I said, be the legacy to level up. Like, I have to make sure that what we do, what Black women and girls do, is marked.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no one can misappropriate our history anymore, right? And that's, even you see it now with like the Harriet movie and the things that come out. Like, it seems like people have such a huge issue with just telling the truth,
Mm-hmm.
and specifically telling the truth when it comes to Black women and girls.
Okay.
And so if we are going to be gatekeepers and yelling all the time and angry because people aren't getting the story right, then that's what we're going to do. Then that's try its purpose. That's what the betterment of Black girl means in that moment. If it means that, you know, all of a sudden the world wakes up and is nice and wants to, you know, have equity and equality, then that means that we just, you know, make sure that everybody is here and empowered and do what they have to do. It can always transform. The cause never has to change, right? And that's the best part of building something like this, because it's sustainable. I did not want to build Tribe off of a negative fact. Does that make sense? I didn't want my mission to be built on a negative situation, where I think a lot of people, when they ask me the mission, they're looking for the problem, right? They're very problem focused, when I'm like, no, we're just the solution, and we're going to be a constant solution.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a new science. People still don't get it.
Well, I have to express significant appreciation for your description, because there's a line in Hamilton where the George Washington character is singing, "You can't control who lives, who dies, who tells your story." And a result of that line, I actually did my own play at Capitol Fringe telling my story, because I disagreed with that particular line. And it sounds like your approach is taking that to a whole nother level of telling your story, the Black girl tribe story. So thank you for
what
that.
we're doing thank you. In result of that, currently right now, our efforts are still trying to be of service, safe at home, but woke. You know what I mean? It's, I think for every like person of color and Black person specifically, it's such a trying time, because you don't know where you're supposed to be. Are you supposed to be out setting stuff on fire? Are you supposed to be inside, you know, like staying safe? It's such a trying time emotionally. It's emotionally taxing, specifically because like I have half of my activist friends out in the street, and then half of us are at home trying to like do digital protests and organize like the paperwork and make sure bailout funds are available and things like that. And everybody plays their role. And everybody has, you know, a spot in a position. But I also want people to realize and to find power that you, in just your existence.
Right.
You do not have to be doing something. You do not have to be reacting. You do not have to be, you don't have to be in control of your emotions either. Right. And so, like, that's the whole thing. So our virtual protest that we're doing right now, and I invite anybody who wants to join us, we are posting, it's going to come out on Wednesday. The girls are collecting, they're doing the digital protest, and they're simply just telling a story about themselves. And at the end, they say, I deserve to exist, because that's really what it is. It doesn't have to be, I'm a doctor and I'm on the front lines, or I'm a firefighter and I'm putting out. Everybody is vital. Everybody is necessary. Everybody is here to exist. And so that is literally, I think, the best way that we can, like, address the situation with the girls, because they want to be active, but I don't feel comfortable with them being out in the street right now. And they want to say something, but I also don't feel like it needs to be performative on our part all the time. Sometimes it just needs to be about who we are, and not necessarily like who we are performing to be to gain value. And I think that's another part of the narrative that we try to, like, fight at Tribe, that you have to be this person that fits, that checks off all these boxes to then be worthy. And we tell our girls they're worthy all the time. Like, you worthy because you woke up.
Right.
And the world is really doing its best to communicate the opposite of that to us, right? So that's why we're just like, nah, it's not about I deserve to breathe. I just deserve to exist. Whatever it is that I'm going to do, whether it's walking, whether it's sleeping in my bed like Brianna was, whether it was taking a run like Ahmad was, whatever it was, right? I deserve to be doing it, and I don't have to, I shouldn't have to explain that to you, but unfortunately we do. So I invite everybody to hashtag I deserve to exist, be in solidarity with us. We're just trying to do something, to make people feel as effective as they can if they need to feel effective.
Well, thanks to you, and thanks to Tribe for that. And let me, in fact, that leads me down a path. And so the path is, how does all this come together to create value in your terms? And I think you stated and alluded to some of it. Can you kind of summarize that value proposition from your perspective?
Value as in, like, all of this together, like, what is it worth? Like, I'm a little
Right.
more in the question.
And so, and actually the question is, it's an open field. It's, how does it create value in your terms? So it is your definition of value. And how does it actually achieve that?
So I think that's such a beautiful question. Like, value is so subjective, and one of the first things that we do as a program with our youth specifically is a values clarification program. A values clarification activity. And it's not that we want them to align with our values, because we actually don't have a set. So we have norms, but we don't have any values, because values are subjective. It's to your life. It's who you are, right? Some people come from families that are super loud. Some people come from families that are super passive. It's not to say that any family is wrong, right? Everybody values something different. Some people value money and establishment, and some people value the earth, right? And so I'm not here to tell anybody is wrong, because, again, everybody plays a key and plays a role. But just the ability to have value in yourself, and whatever that means, that's enough for me. When my girls tell me that they are empowered, then I know they're empowered. It's not about what I see. It's about what they feel about themselves. And a lot of times when you're doing this work, people mix that up, and they put what they think is valuable, on the forefront. And so, again, I could say, not having sex until you're married is a value that I share. But if I have a student that has been sexually assaulted, sex has already occurred, right? So then am I then saying that she's invaluable? So we have to really watch, like, the way in which we, like, use that word a lot of times, because it can be really either validating or really invalidating, specifically to youth. Because they're just learning the meanings of words, and they don't get the diverseness, of what something can mean. Like, they're automatically going to go to money. Like, if you ask a youth right now, what is value? They're going to say, oh, it's worth about $70. No, like, what is a pair of Jordans worth to your personality? Like, what is that value to your personality? And they're like, huh? And then you ask them, and they're like, oh, well, I like being stylish. That's a part of how I express myself. That's value, right? Like, that's something different. But we have to really watch the language in which, like, that we use it. So I will say my values, or the thing that I find valuable about our programming, is the fact that we give language to things that I don't think people empower a lot of youth to think about. Like we're so focused on instilling our values in youth. We don't really ask them what values they already have, you know. And a lot of times, if we did that, we would save ourselves a lot of the work because kids have sense.
Right. You might actually learn something too if you listen.
You will, and that's what I would say. I would say people are always like, "Oh, you so young. You so this." You know why I'm young? Because I don't try to know things I don't know. And if you always are learning, you'll always stay young. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm always learning. I'm always learning from everybody I'm around. I learn from the man sitting outside the liquor store. I'm gonna ask him why he's sitting out there. How he got time? How you got time to sit outside the liquor store and I'm working? You know what I mean? Everybody has a lesson, a reason, a season, or a session. It's all a purpose.
So, Gabby, let's build on that then by asking you, what's your COVID-19 coping lesson? Your word of wisdom to share with folks in this situation?
I have really, I would say, like, being completely honest and vulnerable, I have severe anxiety. I have severe depression. I'm learning to be emotionally intelligent with myself. And going into this, I had to really think about what it was that I needed or what that I would need, not in that very moment, but Gabby, 3 weeks later, you know what I'm saying? Like now, 2 months later, 3 months later. And essentially what it has been is just me giving myself grace to sleep when I need to sleep, to eat when I need to eat, to not do things when I don't want to do it, to do things when it strikes me, you know what I'm saying? And I've kind of lost a track of time doing that. I won't recommend it in the best way because, I don't know if it's Tuesday or Thursday, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it has let me glide through this situation way better than what I would have predicted for myself personally. And that's me being 100% vulnerable. And what I have avoided, honestly, is other folks' think pieces on what I should be doing with my time. Right? Because you got the time police out here telling people, oh, if you don't come out of this with 7 new businesses, if you don't come out of this with your peace of mind, right? Like you've won. If you come out of here sane and you still want to walk around and see folks, you have won COVID-19. Like literally I don't think there has ever been, and this is going to be something that we're going to study for eons now, the psychological repercussions of COVID-19, racism hitting its head in America, right? Like all of these things and people, and again, like we already had things to deal with before this, right? Like the stresses of social media and the news. People had domestic violence. Like people had to live in their homes and be sheltered in place with domestically violent partners, right? Like kids had to be home with abusive parents. You know what I'm saying? Like displaced people had to find somewhere to shelter in place. So it's like there's so many issues when you want to, and that's the thing I will say has kept me grounded. When I want to take on all of this personally and act like it's just happening to me, I have to really check my privilege and realize like what a privileged position I'm in. I'm in a room that I don't have to share with anybody, right? There's ample food. There's whatever I want to do. I can watch whatever I want on the TV. I don't have to worry about it. I can speak on a panel if I want to. I can, you know what I mean? Like these are the different things that are accessible to me. So I'm blessed and I'm okay.
Thank you for that. Thank you very much. And so that leads us to, in fact, the next question, which is what is next for you and for the tribe?
So we're definitely launching, we're keeping up with our advocacy around Breonna Taylor's case. Justice for Bree is the hashtag. We're raising awareness. We're going to be launching a new t-shirt line that is going to be dropping in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And it's not necessarily proceeds for us, but actually proceeds for the bailout funds, because that is a big issue. People that are willing to protest, we appreciate you, and we do need to be able to get them out of jail when they aren't in there. The other things that we have coming, I'm so excited. We're still going to be doing our formation conference, which is our national Black Girls Empowerment Conference. This year, we're going to take it virtually. So the theme is off the grid. Really excited to talk about, the same things that we've been talking about, but from a new elevated point of like the girls have had a full year of like seeing the world, work with this new empowerment and enlightenment. And then we're going to expand it to where we usually have like 60 to 100 girls. We're going to do as many girls to sign up. So it's going to be crazy. It's going to be fun. I hope Zoom doesn't hate us because it's going to be It's gonna be crazy. But other than that, we're just riding the waves. We're waiting to see what happens. Like, we've done virtual yoga classes, we've done virtual values clarification training, we've done virtual esthetician classes. So like, we've been trying to keep the scope and the hope high, if that makes sense. Like, not all just protest and advocacy issues, but also skincare, like hair care, like mental wellness, meditation, all those different kind of things. Because again, as a Black woman and girl, you don't get the privilege of like siloing your thoughts. You have to be everywhere and be present in all things. So that's what we're just trying to address that for all of our girls. And you know, we've been keeping in touch. We have established new means of communication since we can't all be together. We have the tribes are broken into their different text groups. We have our huge group meet with all the girls in it, and people are literally just like checking in on each other because it's really all we can do. And I really appreciate them for giving me the grace, because like they don't blow me up as much as I thought it was gonna be, you know, with like them being bored. And you know, shout out to all my seniors. I would be remiss if I didn't do that. My senior babies are hurt the most, because prom, graduation, these are like, you know, real things. Like, people are not really like respecting their, like, the things that they're going to be missing out the way that they should. So we've just been holding them up in the light and, you know, making sure that they feel celebrated, because it's a great accomplishment. And some people don't ever get to see this, you know what I'm saying? You know, Trayvon Martin never got to graduate from high school. So some things are just very important and necessary to celebrate, whether people find value in them or not.
I'm going to say congratulations to them, and preliminary congratulations to you on this upcoming virtual event.
Thank you so much.
Smashing success. So with that said, any closing comments for the audience before we adjourn for the day?
Like I said earlier, just to reiterate, the Black Girl Tribe is the Black Girl Tribe. We're unapologetically Black, unapologetically femme, but at the same time, we are a tribe and we welcome everyone to our village. So I really hope that folks, you know, follow along, follow our social media at the Black Girl Tribe. We lit on Twitter, we lit on Instagram. Our social media is growing. And I will say that our social media is growing because we are honest. We say the things that I think people want to say on behalf of Black women and girls, but we're gonna say it. And we don't just give you an issue, we give you actionable items. So if you are just learning about Breonna Taylor, please go to our page and learn more. Please go and follow the hashtags and take the actionable items, contact all the people that we listed. We update it, we keep it updated. We're not gonna let it ball drop. We wanna see justice, and you know, we're gonna see it. It's not that we want to see it, we're gonna see it, and that's it. So thank you for all your support. Thank you to everybody. Thanks, Kelsey. Thanks, Chris, for having me and always being a great part of our tribe.
Well, I gotta say, Gabby, thank you for participating, and I want to say big up to you and to Black Girl Tribe. We appreciate what you do.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Have a great week.
All right, bye. You too.
Goodbye. Stay safe out there.
Oh, yes. Stay safe. Wear your mask. Wash your hands.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye. Thanks, Kels.